question that comes up a lot within the trading community on Twitter. I got the question a lot. I even wondered it myself prior to getting into trading. And now that I have about 3 years experience on and off going through every up and down imaginable scenario when it comes to trading, and having found some really good consistency lately, and that was just because I came back mentally prepared, set things up as far as, a side business and a hustle accordingly. But that question is, can you really trade a small account successfully? Now remember, this is just all my opinion, right? I'm not saying this is the same exact thing for everybody. This can relate to every single human being, and that's just how it goes. This is my opinion. There's probably a lot of people that will disagree with me or have different results, but I just believe that the majority of individuals, when coming into this world of trading with a small account, will fit into this category and kind of have these results and some of the things that I think will be needed in order to successfully do so. So when it comes to trading, I initially started with a PDT account. So I had over $25,000. I started trading stock. I started trading shares just like every other person, and I mainly focused on the more expensive stocks, mainly the tech names. In between that, I dabbled in some lower level stocks like sub 10. And just like anybody else, I struggled along the way. Some things happened where I had to slowly take some of that money out. And then before you know it, I was kind of in the category of a small account, right? My opinion, a small account generally is something under 25 grand. I know that if you're at $22,000, that is a decent amount of money, but the only reason I'm going to call it a small account is because of the PDT rule, which is the pattern day trading rule, which literally states that under $25,000, you're limited on the amount of trades you can make when trading stock. So that's why I'm going to call that a small account, because you're limited. You cannot play the game the way everyone else can that has $25,000 and over. So I'm simply just basically going to say that because the rules are different for you at under 25 grand, that we'll call that a small account. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have a lot less funds. They're trading with $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and those are true small accounts. But we'll just on something that's easy to explain, we'll go with that. And I think you can. Long story short, I think that you can trade a small account successfully, meaning profitably. Now, I think that there's a lot of different rules to that. Do I think that you have the best chance possible in this game when trading a small account? Absolutely not. I think that this is a game that requires money. Wall Street has money. They wouldn't be in this game if they didn't have a lot of money behind what they're doing. So I think the more money you have, the better. And I think it's better specifically just for drawdowns, for the occasional mistake, because I don't care who you are, you're going to make a mistake sooner or later. And if you have a very small account, that's usually what leads to somebody blowing up their small account, because they make a mistake, they panic instead of making a reasonable, rational decision. They just end up letting it go to zero. And then they look back and they go, there's ways I could have handled that differently. But there's real emotions tied to trading. When you have a small account, I feel like those emotions are heightened. But let me just go over some of the things that I believe are like absolutely necessary, can't even think about in order to start trading a small account successfully. Let me go over some of the other things that you can trade too when it comes to a small account. I genuinely believe a lot of people have a small account, call it $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they think that they immediately go into the penny stock world. I think that making money consistently in the penny stock world is possible, but I think it's even harder than playing some of the bigger names like the tech names or even stocks that are 50 plus. I think it's very manipulated. I think it's really hard to read what they're going to do day to day, and a lot of people focus on, kind of high of day. And I feel like a lot of people, unless you're very comfortable shorting almost every single day, chasing stocks that have gapped up a substantial amount that are $2, $3, $4, I feel like it's very hard to consistently make income doing that. So I think that's already, on top of trading just in general, makes it that much more harder. I do believe, and this is why I made the switch, and since I made the switch and I've been able to get my kind of emotions together, I have found success, and I think that a lot of people would find success if they kind of dabbled into this world. I think options provides a much better chance of success. I don't want to talk about what options are exactly because that's a whole different video maybe I'll go over. But essentially, when you're trading options, if you don't put a lot into each trade, regardless if how bad the scenario turns out, you're capped at your risk, right? Because let's just say, for example, you want to get into a call option, which means you make money when the stock goes up on Apple, and a call option is trading at $1.50. Being that it controls 100 shares, that call option is going to be $150. Let's say you went long Apple and Apple, bad news came out and Apple went to zero. If you only had one contract, the most you're going to lose is $150. So if you get emotional, if you make a really bad decision and you don't have a ton of money tied into a trade, the worst case scenario is you'll lose the most amount, you'll lose what you put in. So, and I think that kind of protects against the emotional chaos that sometimes can go on in your head. So I think that there is an edge in options alone just from there being mitigated risk, right? Because if you go long Apple and it goes against you and you just hold it, your risk is that it could go to zero, or if you're short, that it could go to infinity. So you could take a massive loss, whereas options, you don't have that. So that I think trading options gives a lot of people an edge. And options, you can trade options as much as you want in a cash account. You're not stuck in the world of the PDT rules. And most brokers allow, minimal cash accounts. I currently have a cash account in Interactive Brokers, and I don't even think there's a minimum in Interactive Brokers. I think for $1,000, you can have a cash account at Interactive Brokers, and you can trade options because they settle overnight as much as you want every single day of the week. So now you can play the game like a big boy, but on a little bit of a smaller account. Now with a smaller account, some of the things that I think have to go with it, super important, and this should go for everything, but way more with a small account is heavy risk management. I mean, super tight, very tight risk management, cannot be loose. The difference with a bigger account is I think you can be a little bit loose with your positions. With a small account, I don't think you can do that. That's just my opinion. I really do believe you have to wait for really good setups, kind of get in, and then be really tight with the stop, and it either works or you have to get out because you got to keep your losses very small. You're not going to win every single trade, unfortunately. No matter what anybody says online, you're not going to win every single trade. So you have to keep those losses very small, which I struggled with. I've gotten a lot better recently, but over the time that would be a problem. So, and that's hard to do, right? Because kind of going into my next thing is you can't have any slip-ups. You can't have any big losses. You got to be almost perfect, and that's really hard to do, especially if you're at all trying to rely on that extra income to pay bills. Like that's gonna drive you through an emotional nightmare, which is kind of what I went through. And it's hard to be almost perfect. I think it is possible once you totally figure yourself out, you learn how to control your emotions, and you have some experience along the way. You can understand exactly what your strategy is and when you got to put your foot on the gas and when not to, and that also takes time. So I think while trying to learn that process, you're going to have massive ups and downs. And sometimes you're going to blow up a few small accounts before you're able to go to the next level and really figure it out. And even though blowing up is not cool, I think sometimes it happens. And is it the end of the world? No, you just got to learn from it. But that's tough to be almost perfect. And I think on a small account, you have to be almost perfect. And then also kind of something else I just wrote down, have some notes, is you got to be insanely disciplined, right? Because you got to know exactly what your strategy is, where your spots are, and then simultaneously also being super disciplined with your stop. So you have to have everything come together, line up, and then you take your shot, and then not every trade's going to work, right? So you got to be able to have everything line up, have it not work out, have it get stopped out, take the loss on a really small account, and then be okay with being able to be confident to pull the trigger the next trade. That's hard. That took me a long time to do too. Knowing exactly what I'm looking for. Patience I still have a little bit of problem with. I'm getting a lot better. But knowing exactly what I'm looking for, having everything line up, and then even when it doesn't work, still believe in your process and continue to hit the button moving forward. And when you have a small account, like losing $80, $100, it feels like a lot because it is a lot percentage-wise. So you got to be insanely disciplined to be able to stick with it, and then just be okay with, especially if you go on a few losses in a row, as long as they're not huge, stick with the process. believe in it, be confident, and continue to hit the button and execute accordingly. And then also, kind of something else is just be able to be very consistent, right? Have consistent gains, because if you have a small account, probably the most important thing is being able to add profits to that, so at least you can give yourself a padding, right? Like, let's say you start a small account and your first month you lose $700. Like, you took a hit, you don't have padding anymore, and now you're going to feel this unnecessary pressure to have to get that money back, right? And if you do that on a small account, it only takes a few mistakes to really wipe your account out. So I think probably the most important thing when it comes to small account is just those small, consistent gains, and you can't really swing for home runs, at least I think. Maybe there's other people that think differently. At least in the beginning, when you're trying to grow it a little bit, I think you got to be okay with really small, consistent gains. And sometimes it's hard to, hit it, see your trade, everything aligns, you hit the button accordingly, you get a decent move, and you made like $63. And you go, man, that's not a lot of money. I see people on social media making hundreds of dollars a day. I know that the market has unlimited earning potential, and I only made $63. And then when you see that same setup again, you try to go for a bigger play, and you end up losing. And sometimes you end up losing big just because it's a mental nightmare. So you got to be okay with kind of those consistent gains and not swinging for the fences initially, and then grow your account. I think the key to it is growing your account, being consistent, feeling confident in your process, and just executing every single day. And then once you grow your account, go for bigger hits. But initially, it's all about just the bare bones basics of making sure you have good risk management, you don't slip up, you have really good discipline, and you consistently grow your account, and you can just execute consistently. So that's kind of my whole take on it. That's just been the things. There's obviously a lot of other things like emotions and mental preparation and being healthy, and obviously not getting good sleep, and don't be hungover when you trade, and kind of lifestyle side to it. But when it comes just to the basics of trading a small account, I do believe you can successfully. I think it's very difficult. I think if you can save up the more money you have that you're willing to apply to this, that you're okay with losing, I think it does give you a little bit of an edge, just so that way if for some reason you take a few hits, you still have a good cushion. But I think it absolutely can be done, and I believe that the best way to do so is through options, because you can trade the big movers. You can trade Netflix, you can trade Tesla, you can trade Nvidia, you can trade Amazon. The options on those are more expensive, but you are capable of trading them, and I think that they do move a little bit more organically than penny stocks. So they're a little bit easier to read from the technical side, and when you get them right, there's big moves there. So I think if you play in that realm, not saying it's for everybody, but I do think that there is a chance that you can successfully trade a small account, hopefully grow it to a big account, and then you're on your way. Let me know if you have any concerns, questions, if you agree, if you disagree, all good. Like the video, subscribe if you care to do so, and I will see you in the next video.